I wanted to share that about 8 years ago, I was watching this really amazing TED Talk on climate communication, and I immediately wanted to know more about the research of the presenter. And it was a TED Talk by Dr. Jess Thompson, who is here today. So I started following her research and reading her papers, and there was so much kindness and empathy in her work that I really felt that kind of hope that Eileen Buchenstein was talking about, transformative hope. Jess was working on this huge data set with very compelling evidence showing how connection with nature can actually help people to overcome political divides and bring them together around meaningful climate action. So I really wanted to meet her. And in 2019, we invited her to come to GVSU, and she kindly accepted. And she really helped us to start this organization. She was our inaugural speaker at the very first Climate Change Education Solutions Summit in Allendale. So now, a little bit more of the formal invitation, because she's coming back this time not as a researcher, but as Assistant Vice President for Sustainability, sharing more about her work on campus sustainability. So Dr. Thompson holds a Master of Science and PhD from the University of Utah. She's also an alumna from Northern Michigan University, where she completed her bachelor's degree. And of course, like many Michiganders, she wanted to come back to Michigan. And after teaching for a number of years at Colorado State, she came back to NMU as an associate professor in 2012, and then she became a full professor in the College of Business a few years later. She's also a trained facilitator, mediator, and holds credit certificate in adaptive management of environmental systems from the University of Utah and in sustainable business strategy from Harvard. Her research focuses on organizational communication about complex ecological issues such as climate change, resilience, and adaptation. She is an author of 2 books and over 40 scholarly publications in many leading journals such as Science Communication, Environmental Communication, Society and Natural Resources, and Journal of Applied Communication Research. In 2020, she published America's Largest Classroom, What We Learned from Our National Parks, which won a National Nonfiction Book Award Silver Prize and the Stuart Udall Award from the Western National Parks Association. She currently serves as the chair of the Marquette Climate Adaptation Task Force, and until recently, she also served on the United States National Park System Advisory Board and the Board of Directors for Michigan Energy Options. 2 years ago, NMU made a very wise decision to elevate its commitment to sustainability and climate action by creating the highest level leadership position dedicated to sustainability. And Dr. Jessica Thompson was appointed inaugural Assistant Vice President for Sustainability. And she also served as a director for Sustainability Hub for Innovation and Environment, very appropriately abbreviated as SHINE. And I think that her work really shines not only at NMU, but statewide and nationwide. So last year, Dr. Thompson was honored as one of Crane's notable leaders in sustainability. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Jessica Thompson to Grand Valley.
Wow, good afternoon. Thank you so much. Thank you, Elena, and your team for organizing this very meaningful event. Today's been lovely, and I felt all of this wonderful collaborative energy. I feel like I'm part of your community, which, yeah, thank you.
You are.
I love that. I gave a talk in Traverse City a couple weeks ago, and felt like an outsider. You guys are different, thank you. My usual punchline for a talk like this, you know, if you doze off or check your email or wherever you end up in the next 40 minutes is, we need everyone doing everything, period, full stop. 100 different decisions got us into this mess. 100, or if you're Grand Rapids, 197 actions at 100 different scales will get us out of it. Educators play a really key role in this process, and they can be the change agents that inspire action and optimism for a regenerative world. But in order to change the world, we really must start with ourselves. And that is what this talk is about.
Sorry, I'm a Mac user.
I figured it out. Okay, and that was such a dramatic moment. Change starts within you, within your self, within your class, within your campus, within your community. And in the spirit of the conference theme, and I did not steal all of this from Eileen, please, but it's pretty similar. I've organized my remarks this evening. It's part personal, part professional, exploration of some ideas that can help us as climate educators. And this is my first time ever giving this talk, and it is more personal than so bear with me as I risk some vulnerabilities in public spaces. So over the past quarter of the century, I've been working on climate change communication as laid out in like a really lovely intro. Wow, I've never heard it all put together like that. Sounded good. But I've been, you know, helping to organize marches and petitions and protests, and I've been putting climate action inside my teaching and research. And like so many of us over this past quarter of a century, felt a lot of feelings. And I also learned where some of the greatest levers for change are, and I couldn't really see those levers at first until I worked through the anger, blame, and despair of doing this work. And maybe some of you are familiar with this graph, maybe you've seen it, the stages of grief as applied to eco and climate anxiety. And I know that several theorists say that it doesn't happen in this linear fashion, that we zigzag back and forth, but for me, I spent a lot of time in that anger, blame, despair zone. I blamed the government for failing to take action. I blamed corporations for greed and extraction. I blamed friends, family, colleagues, and most frequently, I blamed myself for not doing everything I could every minute of every day. And I was carrying all this anger around with me, and one therapist explained that it was the drama triangle. I was the victim, I was the persecutor, the martyr, rescuer. This is the Cartman drama model. And when I saw it, well, first I was very resistant. I'm like, that's not me. But upon reflection, I was like, whoa, I am trapped in the Bermuda Triangle of blame. And I don't know how I'm going to get out. I was passionate and energetic about the work, but I was also pretty self-righteous, and I'm not gonna lie, ego-driven and admittedly hostile at times to people I loved. And this is where I'm like, I have in my notes, I literally wrote it down, pause, contemplate not telling the story. Because everyone has a story. Everyone has trauma in their hurt locker that may or may not be resolved. And for me, it really came to light. My hurt locker opened as COVID was wrapping up. My then 12-year-old daughter was getting ready to go back to middle school, and she had developed an eating disorder so severe, orthorexia coupled with OCD, that she needed to be hospitalized for 4 months in Chicago, which is 400 miles away from our home. At the same time, my marriage of 15 years to my best friend had hit rock bottom. I was literally standing in the entryway of our home, and I said, I've got 1 foot in and 1 foot out. I don't even know if I love you anymore. It was a really dark time, and I scoffed when people suggested self-care, like a bubble bath or a face mask is going to fix these problems. People would recommend a Brene Brown book, and I would just roll my eyes, like, when am I going to read that? But it was my daughter who saved me. Part of her treatment required that I take a leave of absence, and I spent the last month of her treatment in Chicago. I did all the work with her. We had weekly family sessions, I did weekly counseling sessions, and my husband and I started couples therapy. He would die if he knew I just told you that. No, he's on board. We're a team. Love of my life. Fully safe now. Punchline of the story, if you were worried. We're good. But it was at this time that I started my mindfulness practice, a simple walk in the woods. Sometimes I took 5 minutes, sometimes I took 5 hours. And I finally started reading all those self-help books. I actually started reading all the books. I had been so busy writing books that I hadn't sat down to actually engage with the contemporary literature. And wow, I learned a lot. I'm still learning a lot. I changed a lot. I am still changing. And it is as continuous and constant as decarbonizing your campus. That's a joke, but we do need laughter. I make light, but humor is a healthy coping mechanism, and what the world needs right now more than anything is more laughter, and laughter together, so laugh when you can. And so there were several key insights that came from all these great books that I finally read, and what I want to do today is offer them to you because they helped me on my journey, and whether it helps you on your reflection, repair, regeneration journey, or help someone navigate their reflection, repair, regeneration journey, it is my gift to you. And they really, I will say, these insights helped me show up as the change agent and climate educator that I needed to be, but also the one that my students, my colleagues, and even my family needed me to be. So it starts with the fact that we live in an era of information overload and echo chambers, but our brains are programmed with a negativity bias. But mindfulness and factfulness, data can actually give you an honest start at changing from within. And then you'll be ready to reprogram your approach with beautiful, stubborn optimism and teach everyone about the endless abundance that is available to us right now so that we can build the regenerative future that we all deserve. All right, so first, widespread access to information and the ability to create content has been a powerful tool for both mobilizing and paralyzing the climate movement. Information overload is a very specific reference to feelings of overwhelm when information input is exceeding our processing capacity. I'm not blaming COVID, but I'm going to say, in a cross-sectional study of adolescents, screen time increased from 3.8 hours pre-pandemic, that was 3.8 hours per day pre-pandemic, to 7.7 hours during the pandemic. And it didn't go back down, folks. I saw my own children glued to devices for schoolwork, for social time, even birthdays and holiday celebrations were online. For them, life began to exist in this digital space. And there's so much information available. I mean, I'm an adult, and it is difficult for me to stop scrolling, to break free from the temptation to find more input. Imagine what the challenge is like for a young person without a fully developed frontal lobe. And all of that scrolling feeds algorithms that then serve us very exquisitely fine-tuned information that perpetuates or validates our already held opinions. So these echo chambers are bubbles of thought that exist on the left, they exist on the right, the middle, and everywhere in between. And they can be really empowering and really confirming, but they can also cultivate a culture of groupthink where nuances and individual perspectives are silenced in favor of cohesive group beliefs. So not just for ourselves, but as educators, we need to be smarter than the screens and role model how to navigate the tidal wave of information we're swimming in. First, know when to stop doom scrolling. As simple as setting time limits. I give myself 6 minutes every morning for the news. That's it. I'll catch up on the rest of it tomorrow. I've got better things to do. So set a time limit. Second, quality control. Misinformation and disinformation, and we heard this already a few times today in a few different places, they're rampant on the web. So how can you hold your sources accountable? How can you ask for proper and robust citations? And this has actually gotten to be pretty funny with my team and family, because anytime somebody tells me something, I'm like, where's the data to support that claim? Who's your source? Where did you see that information? So if I bust out a factoid, they are very quick to say, where did you get that data? Can you show me your source? And I'd rather that be their response than, okay. Third, critically assess intentions. Does the source have a motive for you to believe or think a certain thing? Do they stand to benefit from you accepting this information as fact? And fourth, make a point to engage with opinions you don't fully agree with. While it can be frustrating and sometimes very disheartening, it is more important now than ever that we learn from those who see the world differently, that we learn from those we disagree with, and we authentically listen to them. And finally, make room for everyone in the climate movement. Far too often I see liberal climate activists shunning those with different disciplinary or political viewpoints and preventing them from entering in the climate space. This causes more harm than good. We need to build bridges if we're going to move the needle on climate change. And we must include diverse perspectives and voices. Remember, we need everyone doing everything at all scales. If it bleeds, it leads. I did my master's in environmental journalism, and I spent many years teaching media writing, so I understand this journalistic training to look for a compelling story. I mean, it's because we want to bring injustices to the people. We want to warn them about impending doom. But this journalistic practice can also trap the audience in a cycle of cynicism and frustration, especially when it comes to climate change. In a study of 350 news articles across 6 countries about climate change, disaster framing was used in 82% of the stories. In different languages, 82% of the stories, whether the headline, the lead, or the first few lines of the story, made climate change a disaster. And when we frame climate change as a disaster, we're missing a huge opportunity to talk about all of the solutions. And we continue to feed this innate proclivity towards shocking and negative news. Psychologists call this the negativity bias. We're hardwired to be extra attentive to stories that evoke negative emotions. And decades of research demonstrate that information with a negative frame weighs heavier in decision making, it stimulates faster learning, it's more compelling to readers, and it receives significantly higher truth ratings than equivalent statements framed in a positive manner. Add the overwhelming tide of information overload and echo chambers to the negativity bias, it's no wonder that we might have feelings of despair right now. So you have to work hard and intentionally against these headwinds, and this is where I would say a mindfulness practice and an appreciation for data can help you see the bigger picture. I once actually heard a climate activist say that sitting in stillness is a waste of time, and I didn't disagree with them at that time. I was like, yeah, Earth is on fire, we gotta go, there's work to do, no time to meditate. On the contrary, I now know that meditation or any mindfulness practice, it could just be sitting in stillness for 60 seconds, it makes my actions more effective by making them less full of ego. Plus, it's literally one of the cheapest solutions we have. Totally free and can start anytime. And anybody can do it. So again, cheap and effective climate change solution tool. But once you start observing your mind, you see how busy it is. It's constantly reacting to sensations, observations, and making judgments. It's always running. But a daily meditation or mindfulness practice, which could be mindful walking, mindful eating, making a cup of tea, journaling, all of this can help to improve your present moment awareness and that non-judgmental observation, which is key to navigating the digital overwhelm, the misinformation, the negativity bias that we're encountering every day. And again, full disclosure, I did not jump into the meditation movement early, and it actually was a major turning point in my marriage. We were sitting on the couch in the marriage counselor's office. I'm also debating telling the story, but I already started, so I think I've got to. I was complaining all the things I do. I do everything, and he gets to go on a bike ride and do whatever he wants, and I have such an unbalanced relationship. I mean, can you hear like victim, martyr, persecutor? And at some point in that session, my husband explained that he had been setting a daily intention for me. He explained that at the end of his yoga practice, after Shavasana, he'd put his hands to heart center, and he would just set an intention, and sometimes he would say, I hope Jess gets what she needs today, or I hope that Jess finds peace today. I had no idea, like literally no idea. I was carrying so much angst, and I was so embroiled in my own ego, and I was complaining about him getting this hour of yoga in while I was doing laundry and making lunches and taking care of everything. And it turns out he was practicing self-care so that he could be present and patient with me. And that was a pivotal moment. Okay, and that changed everything after that. Our marriage is better today than it ever was, ever. We started telling each other what we're grateful for, just one thing a day. And then that adds up, and then you start, just really deeply appreciating each other and knowing that you need that partner in that relationship to navigate the world that we're living in. So I started my own mindfulness practice, which was not easy, but I did it because I can do hard stuff, and you can do hard stuff too. I began by simply focusing on my breath. I focused on being so present that my mind didn't have a chance to perseverate on the past or antagonize about the future. Being present brought clarity and honesty, as does really good data. So, if you are feeling overwhelmed about climate change, take a minute to sit down and look at the facts. Less mothers and babies are dying today. We are globally breathing the cleanest air than we've seen in 200 years. In the United States, emissions have declined 20% since 2005. More than 70% of people in 63 countries across the globe think that climate change is a serious threat, and more than 73% support political action and policies to address it. The data tells us a bigger, broader story. It helps us to put it into perspective. And it works for you too. Take the time to estimate your own annual greenhouse gas emissions or your own carbon footprint. You can either do a quick online assessment, or you can put together, I did a deep dive with a year's worth of utility, purchasing, and travel data. And what's so enlightening is you can see where you are already making regenerative choices in your life and all the opportunities where you can live lighter on the planet. After the pandemic, I took on the responsibility of doing our university's sustainability audit, and it requires getting data from more than 2,000 data points across multiple divisions. But man, it was a great way to learn all the things that we're already doing and the opportunities to improve from from operations to community engagement. Most importantly for myself, for my household, for my university, that honest audit helped to set smart goals. And that's what we need to move forward. We need action, 197 action steps, or somewhere, between 5 and 197. So rewiring yourself for optimism is not complicated, but it's also not that easy either. The mind is a slippery fish, and it will want to tell you that it's all too depressing, that it's all too big, that it's impossible for the world to reduce its dependence on fossil fuels, or that the political system is broken and you can't fix it, or even worse, that you're just one person. Remind your mind, and any other joker that says something like that we don't know what is going to make the difference. But in the end, systems shift and every action adds up. Every time you make an individual choice to be a responsible custodian of this beautiful world, you contribute toward major transformation. To be optimistic, you acknowledge all of the bad news. You see the adversarial forces, and yet you still show up. You can see that a sustainable future is not only possible, it is currently emerging. You don't deny the bad news, you just choose to focus on the good news, like the continuous drop in the cost for renewable energy, the increase in the number of countries setting and adopting net zero emissions targets, the cities across the globe that have banned internal combustion engines, the vast amount of capital shifting to the green economy. Optimism is about being able to intentionally identify and prescribe the desired future so that you can pull it closer, faster. Optimism empowers you. It drives the desire to engage, to contribute, and to make a difference. Optimism is not soft. It is gritty, and every day brings dark news, and there's no end of people telling us that the world's getting worse. Well, I am not surprised by this, but I don't need to succumb to that. That doesn't need to be the story. We may be challenged beyond our currently visible capacities. I will give us that. But that only means that we are invited to rise to the next level of our abilities. And we can, because there is an endless abundance of solutions available to all of us. Unfortunately, we've been caught in a stifling sort of zero-sum paradigm that privileges competition over collaboration. We're haunted by this perception of scarcity, the view that there's just a limited amount of something, regardless of what reality really is. That perception of scarcity puts us into a small mental box, but we can expand that box and we can choose abundance. The realization of abundance is not this illusionary increase in physical resources, but is rather an awareness of the broad array of ways to satisfy needs and wants so that more people can be taken care of. When we choose abundance, we are called to enhance collaboration and creativity. For example, consider the endless abundance available to us that we can harness from the sun, wind, water, sea waves, heat within the earth, heat pumps. We were talking about those earlier, sorry. Anyways, all of the technology currently exists right now to produce electricity, and none of it will ever get used up. It is endless abundance. Regenerated soils, forests, oceans can all be managed for endless abundance. It even works with technology. Imagine a world of open source everything, and it could happen. We could co-create knowledge and share goods and services with open access for the benefit of all. The practice of abundance starts by shifting our minds away from this perceived scarcity to what we can collectively do to make more engaged teamwork. Sorry, I lost my spot. Where we can share the results of our labor with anyone who can use it as input without mentally claiming intellectual property rights. Another person's success is not our loss. It is our constantly growing collective success. And this is how we regenerate. Regeneration is the recuperation, the healing, the caring of ourselves and others in nature. We work together, we replenish what we use and make sure that plenty remains for tomorrow. Being regenerative is not a new idea, and it shouldn't be a strange one. If you're a parent, you know this feeling, supporting your child, supporting them when they're going through a hard time, patiently listening, encouraging them to stay hopeful. We do this in friendships, we do this in relationships, we act in regenerative ways all the time. And right now, we need to do it for ourselves. Amid the climate crisis, we each have an urgent responsibility to replenish ourselves and protect ourselves from breaking down, because this is the moment that we need to show up. In the face of eco-grief and burnout, figure out how you restore your reserves. Create a daily personal grounding practice. What's going to help you withstand the bombardment of bad news? Without a grounding, you might just be a leaf in the wind, vulnerable to all the elements from all directions. It's better to be the tree, firmly rooted in your values and principles, so you can stretch and grow. Not just metaphorically, but be the tree. Think like a tree. For me, the regenerative mindset required shifting my action compass from self-centric to nature-aligned. From classroom to campus projects, I asked, does this activity contribute to humans and nature thriving together as part of a healthy, integrated system? If yes, then green light, let's go. We'll figure out how to pay for it later. So that's what I want to spend the last part of this talk, is just sharing examples from some of regenerative projects on our campus, things that have happened just over the past couple of years. And I will say all of them initiated, requested by students. Students coming with these ideas and saying, hey, have you thought of this? And the university listening and saying, tell us more, how can we do it? And really following through and implementing a variety of different projects. So, as I'll say over and over, we need everything. 100 things at 100 different scales, right? So we might seem small, but it all adds up. Here's just a deeper look at a few of these projects. 1 year ago in 3 days, we opened our campus native plant nursery. And growing plants is about the most obvious regenerative practice you can engage in. Students brought this idea forward and said, we need more native plants on campus, and facilities and grounds should grow them. And I was like, okay, I'll take that idea to them. We'll see how this goes. They loved it. This would solve multiple problems for our grounds crew and save them tons of money over the long term. So we pitched in, worked together, and created our own native plant nursery, which is 11,000 square feet, has more than 200 plants and shrubs growing of 30 different native and native-R species. And once those all grow strong enough to survive our winters, they'll be moved out and put into landscaping on campus. Last week, we put up our first overwintering house, and this is a student project. A biology student working with her professor wants to study how our insect friends use overwintering homes. And so we said, yeah, let's put them all over campus. So another dozen of those going up in different places. We also learned that we have one endangered species of bat, the northern long-ear, and another threatened species, the tricolored, on campus. So a team of students proposed that we install a half dozen bat boxes for roosting, and they researched the different locations, and we will also be installing these boxes for our bats to roost and hopefully help keep them safe in the face of white nose syndrome. We have a campus apiary, and this emerged from a class conversation. A student asking a professor, do bees make toxic honey if the plants are toxic? And the chemistry professor saying, great question, let's find out. And so we figured out how to put some different funding together to start an on-campus apiary, which The biggest expense we later discovered was the electric fence to keep out the bear. So I don't know if you guys have as many bear, but it was like a real Winnie the Pooh situation that had gotten into the apiary. But the benefit of this is not only does it provide a research opportunity, it also pollinates our food growing space because it's right there in the same zone. And for 15 years we had a pretty small hoop house. Did a great job growing food and supporting our campus food pantry with that food. As part of the Hunger Free Campus pilot program, we were able to purchase two super huge, actually I think we may have bit off more than we can chew, but we will figure out how to make it work. Two large hoop houses, expanding our growing area, and the best part about this project is we put these right outside the back door of some campus apartments, and we worked with the city to close 2 roads. So we took out 2 roads, we essentially expanded the back door of campus, and this is just a block from the library. So once we get everything up and growing, right now the construction management students are building the boxes, and we're going to have some ADA accessible planters, which we're really excited about, making food growing accessible for all members of both our campus and community. Another neat thing about our food growing area is that all of it goes to our food pantry. We have 2 food pantry locations on campus, and our indoor ag students built this indoor grow tower. This is from like the first week of campus that classes got back, but last week students were going in and they could just pick the kale and spinach that they wanted. So it is inside, the grow tower is inside the food pantry itself. And then we're working on all sorts of workshops, canning and preserving and cooking and all the homesteading style skill builders that go along with it. I love, Denise had a flag earlier about getting power from the sun, and this is such an important moment for that. And this also is a student-initiated project. I mean, they all are. But we worked with an alumni-owned company to install a solar array. These panels are bifacial. How many people know what bifacial? Oh yeah, great. See, you guys are informed. For those of you who this is your first time hearing bifacial, for us, I also don't know if you know this, it's kind of winter for a while up in the UP. Yeah. Okay, so you understand. But snow reflects sunlight. Bifacial panels capture the albedo, or the reflective light off the snow, and they generate energy. And what is pretty cool, I mean, if you want to call it cool, this March was a doozy. We had a huge dump of snow the first week of March, and it stayed all the way until another gigantic storm at the end of March, which I think downstate actually came as ice and wreaked havoc on the northern lower. March is also one of our cloudiest months, so the dark gray boxes are overcast. Anywhere where it's light blue is sun, so we've got a lot of cloud cover, and we don't have tons of daylight. So the beginning of March, we're still at 11-ish hours of daylight. The good thing is pre-equinox, the days get longer. By the end of March, we're over 12 hours of daylight, but not a lot of daylight. But if you look at the dashboard from our solar array, you can see we got more energy from the sun in March than we did in June, and it was capturing all that reflective light off the snow. So solar works. And we love it so much that we're trying to put as much as we can behind the meter. So we just got a grant from MDARD, the Michigan Department of Ag and Rural Development, to install rooftop solar on our new well-being center, which is pretty exciting because that will be 81 kilowatt hours, and it'll be like 40 to 50% of that building. And with the grant, the elective pay or the tax credit, it's only going to cost us $9,000. Yeah, so paid off in like 3 months. It's pretty crazy. And then free power from the sun. Amazing. In one of our sessions, we were talking about LEED, and we had a heart-to-heart about LEED certification on our campus a couple of years ago because we have some new buildings coming up. But it's really expensive. If you've gone through the LEED process, it's 2 to 3% of total building costs. And if you have a $30 million renovation at a public institution, that's like, it's the first thing to get value engineered out. And so we worked with our facilities and engineering department to figure out how could we create our own LEED-like checklist. And so we created a green building code. The picture in the middle is just one of the great examples of things that is in that. It's a fritted glass. So in our biggest, kind of most glass-facing building, these frits help to reflect sunlight and keep the temperature of the building down, but they also help to reduce the glare for birds. And we're looking at other products that we can install on our glass to reduce bird collision, because Michigan, we're on the migratory path, and we've got lots of bird lovers on our campus. And you can't protect what you don't love, so we're trying to protect those things. What's really neat in the Green Building Code is it outlines very specific products, and one of my favorite regenerative products to talk about is carpet. Yeah? No? No, carpet and concrete are pretty gross in general, but besides their terrible reputation, Interface, which is our exclusive vendor for carpet, is creating carbon negative carpet. They have patented a technology to capture the carbon, and then they inject it into bio-based material. They use low VOC adhesives and sealants to create their finished product. So I was so excited when I saw boxes of Interface's carbon negative carpet coming in for our library renovation project, which opens in December. And I mentioned this in one of the earlier breakout sessions, but one of the most monumental initiatives that students brought to NMU's leadership was the proposal to divest our endowment from fossil fuels. We're pretty small. Our endowment is around 18 million. We don't directly invest in any specific companies. And when we first investigated, we realized we are only 4 to 6% of our portfolio on any given day was tied to a fossil fuel related company, either extraction, transportation, or consumption. So we were pretty excited that it could be possible. Our students partnered with students from Michigan Tech at a hockey game to really make a big splashy statement about divesting. And it was just a few months later that we had Board of Trustees and the CFO and the president in the room to hash out the plan to actually get there. Since we've committed, we've increased our investments in sustainable funds, which have all grown. Full disclosure, not a financial advisor. I'm not giving advice that is outside of my lane of expertise. So I'm just going to share with you, because I divested my own retirement in the same way, because these funds are growing. No longer that argument of environment versus economics. That doesn't even hold water anymore, because we can show there's strong financial gains in the environmental market, or in climate-friendly sectors. So this is the Impacts Global Environmental Markets Fund. It has grown 22% in the past 6 months. The S&P 500 Fossil Fuel Free Reserve has grown 25% in the past 6 months. And it has grown 15% over the past year. So if you're looking for longer term data. Again, not a financial advisor. Please consult your own advisor who is a professional in this space. And this one is so exciting, the Paris Aligned Climate Optimized Fund, which only includes companies that have set Paris-aligned decarbonization targets. Those are the only companies that can even be part of this bundle, has grown 39% in the past 6 months. You want to show how to make a meaningful difference? Here's the money. Show your admin. There's financial possibility. Okay. And I want to talk about Compost Crew, because this was a really neat student pilot program with a local company, Partridge Creek Compost, to teach students how to sort properly, and we also do back of the house sorting. And since we started this last February, we average about 10,000 to 12,000 pounds a month of compost that is diverted from the landfill. It is now just shy of 100 tons. Now we are trying to reduce the amount of food waste in general, but really exciting to know that that didn't go to the landfill and is being turned into soil. Again, very regenerative practice. And I'm just gonna wrap with one activity that really started it all, and we laugh because it seems so small. Students wanted to have clothing swaps and sewing workshops and repair cafes, and this goes back like 6 or 7 years. And it has become wildly popular. Every month there's a clothing swap. We finally just decided we had a big bin, a rolling bin made, and it just stays in the lobby of our big academic building, and people drop and pick all the time. Every time I walk through there, people are going through and finding some new treasure. It doesn't cost us a thing. And it actually is maybe not even that small, but it is a key step in breaking the fast fashion consumer cycle and creating new habits and new appreciation. Like I said, we need everyone doing everything. Big tent. So together, we can build a regenerative world for all, and we can start right now. You can start right now. Right now. Take a deep breath. You're here. You are committed to collectively doing this work. You can play your part. You already are. You are going to be a hopeful visionary for humanity through these days. From this moment, despair ends and tactics begin. Commit to reducing your own climate impact by more than half. It doesn't matter if you don't know how you're going to get there. You'll figure that out. We are all learning. Don't let not knowing stop you. And tomorrow, get outside. Look around. Some might say that this world is damaged and suffering, but it is also beautiful and intact and whole. Pay attention to something you've forgotten, the way the variation of color happens in a changing leaf, or how frost sits on the morning. Feel the gratitude that we owe the earth and all of her bounty and beauty. And then later next week, commit to that mindfulness practice, or breathing exercises, or gratitude, whatever works for you. List the things you are grateful for, even if it takes a few seconds in your head, or write it down on paper. You will be that gap of light between yourself and the world and your reactions. And you will be able to show up, because when the going gets tough, and it might, it could, it has, you can tell yourself and you can tell your students that this insurmountable challenge is not going to defeat us. We are going to take responsibility, we're going to work together, and we're going to do whatever is necessary to emerge from this crisis while rekindling our relationships with each other and with all the natural systems. This is a story of great adventure against overwhelming odds, and it begins with you.